Chapter 3, Moving into and out of the cell, Lesson 1, Diffusion. Objectives again and again. Please make sure after studying that you can apply everything that you're requested to apply on and given by those objectives. Okay, particles. What are particles? Particles are the smallest pieces of any substance. They can be molecules, ions, or atoms. Molecules, of course, these are the particles that are made of more than one atom. While ions, these are the charged atoms that lost an electron, for example. While atoms, this is the single unit of the molecule, like one hydrogen, for example, one oxygen. This is said to be an atom. Kinetic energy. Again, kinetic energy is the energy in a moving object, the energy of motion. Net movement. Net movement, it is the average movement of particles, like the difference between what's going in and going out of the cell. Partial permeable membrane or a partially permeable membrane, just like the cell membrane as we mentioned in previous lessons. It allows some particles to pass and some particles not to pass. So, allows some and prevents others. Also, diffusion is the net movement of particles from high concentration to low concentration, or the random movement of particles from high to low concentration. Also, when I say high to low concentration, I have to say with the concentration gradient or down the concentration gradient. This means that they are going with the flow, with the concentration gradient from up to down. And of course, particles move because they have their own kinetic energy. So automatically they will move from the crowded place to the less crowded place, from the high point to the low point. Cell membrane, as we all know, is a partially permeable membrane, so that it allows some particles to pass automatically and without any effort. They just slip from between the particles of the cell membrane. Usually they are very small molecules or particles, like oxygen, for example, and gases. As you see again, the particles move from the high to the low concentration until they reach equilibrium, which means that the count of both sides of particles is similar. But does this mean that they stop moving? No, but the net movement turns to be zero, which means that when one particle moves, another particle moves to the other side. Diffusion in living organisms. So how do we use this? What's the benefit of this in biology? First, for plants to undergo photosynthesis, they need carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide has to move into the leaf through, yes, diffusion, because whenever carbon dioxide enters, it gets used up. So now the concentration of carbon dioxide is always low inside of the leaf, while in the outer air it is high. And as we said, diffusion goes from high to low concentration. So carbon dioxide will keep moving inside by diffusion, because always inside the cell the carbon dioxide will be used up and it has to be replaced from the outer air. Also, in plant cell, oxygen is considered a waste product, so it's going to diffuse outside of the stomata, because a lot of oxygen is being made due to photosynthesis, so the concentration of oxygen inside of the leaf is usually more than outside of the leaf, so it's going to diffuse from inside to outside. Respiration in animals and plants where gas exchange occurs. What does this mean? This means that gas exchange usually happens by diffusion. Yes, I need you to remember this, that the factors affecting the rate of diffusion, either they are directly proportional, which means that when this factor increases, the rate of diffusion increases, or inversely proportional, which means that when this factor increases, the rate of diffusion will decrease. Let's take some examples. First, we have the temperature. Temperature is directly proportional, which means that when the temperature increases, yes, the rate of diffusion will increase. Stirring, when you put a drop of ink into water and then you leave it, will it diffuse faster, or when you stir it, it will diffuse faster? Of course, when you stir it, the ink will diffuse faster. So this means that stirring is directly proportional to the rate of diffusion. Air current, when air current is in the same direction of the diffusion of something, so the diffusion will increase. So again, it is directly proportional. Distance. Distance is directly proportional because the closest the object, the better the diffusion. The furthest the object, the worse the diffusion. Pressure. Pressure is directly proportional because the more you will apply pressure on those particles, they will move faster to the other side. So again, it is directly proportional to the rate of diffusion. Size of molecules, and this is the only inversely proportional factor. Why? Because the bigger the object, the harder it's gonna diffuse through the membrane. It's gonna be harder for it to push through and pass to the other side, even if it's moving from the high to the low concentration. So when the size increases, the diffusion rate decreases. Then finally, the surface area. The more surface area you provide, the faster the diffusion will be. Let's answer some questions. The diagram shows a section through an alveolus and through a capillary. Alveolus, these are the air sacs that are found in our lungs, where gas exchange will happen. They get filled with air coming from the outside, and they have capillaries, blood capillaries. These are very thin blood vessels that contain a lot of red blood cells. And as we learned before, red blood cells, they carry oxygen to all of our body. So the blood coming from all the parts of the body contains a lot of carbon dioxide as a result of the cellular respiration, and it needs oxygen. So here I have high concentration of carbon dioxide, and here I have, in the air coming from the outside, low concentration of carbon dioxide. Now let's see what's the question. How does carbon dioxide move from Y to X? If I have high concentration here and low concentration here, so the carbon dioxide will move by diffusion. Also here, carbon dioxide enters plant cell by diffusion. The word diffusion on the left can be joined only by two boxes. Make sure that you draw straight lines. When he says straight lines, this means that you must use a ruler and preferably a pencil. And also, two straight lines mean two straight lines. This means only two. If you add more than two, you will lose marks even if two of them are already correct. So diffusion is the movement of particles from high to low concentration. This is one of the boxes. Now I have another one. Occurs due to the random movement of particles. Yes, no pushing, no energy. It's just the kinetic energy in the particles themselves. It's the motion of the particles automatically. Thank you, and I hope this video helps you study.